What's up, guys? We are live with Freedom Grappling Podcast. This is the first episode. We're going to be bringing Chris Shahgholi on. He has an upcoming match at Finisher Sub Only with Andrew Kochel. And then, interesting enough, he has a match on my show at Freedom Grappling Invitational August 8th in a Quintet format against Andrew Kochel's team. So it's going to be an interesting trifecta of matches. He's already had one match with him. So his match at Finisher is kind of a revenge match. We'll see what happens there. This podcast is brought to you by Freedom Fightwear. It's my company. It's good stuff. We're upcoming. We're trying to make a dent in the market here. I'm primarily focused on schools, doing martial arts school apparel, things like that, where you could actually deal with somebody in the States instead of dealing with somebody from overseas or whatever. So hit me up if you have any questions on that. Other than that, let's get started and bring Chris in. Chris, how we doing today, brother?
Hey, Jesse, how's it going? Thank you for having me on. First of all, let me get that out of the way.
Good, man. Good. How you doing today?
Amazing. Just about an hour out from my fourth session today, so my mind is working at its top capacity after I train. So this is going to be a great podcast.
Cool. Fourth session, man. You training at the house, it looks like?
So I had a morning session with a client with some pad work at 7:30. 10 a.m. session in, we call it the favela, in our 10 by 10 space. We fit about 10 to 15 people in there. Then we had a drilling session between that and then our Wu-Tang Wednesday at 10th Planet. We do 1 hour of EBI overtime escapes.
Sweet, man. That's nice. How are things up in New York as far as like the shutdown for COVID and all that?
So Long Island is like into phase 4. You can walk into a restaurant with a mask and you can eat at a restaurant without a mask. The city is a little bit different. It's still a little bit restricted, but little by little, we're getting back to normal.
That's good. Are y'all's gyms able to open up full capacity or what?
Unfortunately, originally phase 4 was supposed to be open for the gyms, but they've released some new guidelines that I know that the owners at my gym are going over to make sure and see what they can do for us. But as of right now, there's no regular opening.
Yeah, this COVID's been really rough on everybody, man, as far as training and stuff like that. I know people took months off. It's shut down a lot of schools. It's been a lot of hard times. Anything in your area been hit really hard about that?
I've definitely followed on social media a ton of closures, more so in the city, but like you said, the hardest part is people, schools are staying open, but people are missing so much training. A lot of schools are offering Zoom. Our instructor definitely updates us on a weekly basis with instructionals and YouTube content, but there's nothing like being on the mat, and that's what's sad about this situation.
Yeah, there's been a lot of luckily, you can tell how tight-knit the grappling community is, which I love, because people have been giving away instructionals and stuff like that for free throughout this whole thing.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It's definitely been hitting hard on gyms. I know the gym that I've trained at for the last 3 years, we had to close up shop. People are still wanting rent, things like that, and we just can't do it whenever we're unfortunately, whenever you're not having anything, you don't have money coming in, it's hard to have money coming out. So
right.
Unfortunately, we were one of the gyms that got hit kind of hard about that. So we'll see how things get up and going here in the next few months. I know they're talking about closing back down a lot of places. So
yeah, I feel like the best way to look at the situation with COVID is it's a fresh slate for everyone. So everyone's starting from the same point, and whoever hustles the hardest once everything is back open is going to succeed. And whoever was successful before this has just as much potential to be as successful when everything gets back open, and hopefully they'll have the support of their people that they had before this happened.
Yeah, you're definitely going to know who's been training, who hasn't been training. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
We've been kind of training underground, kind of like y'all have, in a really small space in garages and stuff like that. And that's really helped us out. But, a lot of us went at least a month without being able to do anything other than train at our own houses, which sucks for everybody.
Fortunately, I haven't missed one day during the quarantine, because as soon as we saw businesses closing, anyone who was home from work or quarantined or unable to go to work, we committed to each other that we would come and train at my house and only come here and home so that we wouldn't be in contact with other people. So since day one of the lockdown, we've been training twice a day.
That's great, man. The gym I was at was a smaller gym, so we unfortunately didn't really have that opportunity. It was only, the gym that I was mainstaying at was only like 6 people on the mats at all times, and 2 of us were first responders, so you never know what you're in contact with, unfortunately.
That's rough.
Yeah. So look, let's get going here, man.
Yeah.
Your second match with Andrew Kochel come up at finishers.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about your first match and what you're changing in hopes for the second match and how you felt about the first match.
So first, let's talk about the first match. That individual who had a match with Andrew is a stranger to me at this point. I've made a transformation during the quarantine. I'm at a new weight division. We're fighting at 175 pounds. In the first match, my technique wasn't sharp at all. I went in there trying to manhandle Andrew because I had a weight advantage, and he capitalized on that opportunity and ended up on my back and finished with a rear naked choke. The game plan this time is to push the pace in another way and not waste any time on the feet. I'm confident that I'm going to be able to pull guard and get the match going. And respect to Andrew, I know he wants to put on a show for everyone, so there won't be any time wasted. But the mistake I made last time was wasting a lot of time and energy on the feet when I'm very comfortable in my guard game now. So that's going to be the game plan at finishers. Just keep the pace going. We're training 15 rounds 2 times a day. So cardio isn't going to be an issue. We're practicing EBI overtime drills. The goal is to finish within regulation and just to keep the pace going. I'm going to be working from the bottom, and I hope Andrew comes in strong from the top so we can see those clash of styles.
Yeah, that sounds good, man. I've trained with Andrew before. Like I said, I am a first responder, so I travel a lot for work and training and stuff like that. And I ended up in Philly for some reason or another, and I ended up traveling out to Allentown and training with him, or not Allentown, I'm sorry, down to the Valley and training with him. It was a cool experience because I got to train with him, and Zach Edwards was training up there at the time too. So, and Eric Shaw, he's at 10th Planet Allentown now, I believe. He was there at the time, so I got to train with all 3 of them, and it was phenomenal time. They took me in with open arms, so it was really cool. So a lot of respect to them guys. And then I got to train up at Brunswick BJJ, which was really cool too because Gary Turner is somebody I always looked up to in the grappling community. So it was pretty cool to be able to travel up there. I know one thing with Andrew, when I trained with Andrew, he's relentless on headlock attacks.
Yes.
He constantly comes after him. He jumps up for the guillotine constantly. He has some wild attacks from there. So how did you feel about that, in the first match? I know you said you're not the same person as first match. But how do you feel about his prowess on the front headlock game? I know he tried that a lot. I watched the match earlier.
Yes. I have a prowess in the 93 guard game. So the importance there is to keep my frames in and continue to off-balance him. If I keep my 93 guard game strong, his only option will be to come over the top, at which point I can invert into a back roll and end up in a leg isolation. So I'll force him into options that he's not comfortable with.
I know you said you probably wasn't going to stand up with him this time around. I know that the first match when I watched earlier, you was pretty much like you were standing up with him a lot and trying to push him around kind of.
Correct. I'd like to be a little more technical this time.
Try that again.
I'd like to make a technical match this time. I was trying to use my weight at that time. And also at that time, my competition strategy was to push the pace and force the person to sit so I could pass. This time I'm comfortable pulling guard and working from there and using a sweep to come up on top if necessary.
It's so interesting to see, you're from 10th Planet Long Island. Did you always train at 10th Planet Long Island, or did you train somewhere else first?
So I originally grew up in Queens.
Okay.
And I got introduced to jiu-jitsu through an affiliate program inside a weightlifting gym, so it wasn't very structured. But at one point, we had an individual from 10th Planet Bethlehem who had moved to Queens, and he showed me a lockdown, and I was so fascinated by it. I went home, I looked up Eddie Bravo on YouTube, and I don't know if you've ever seen this video, but there's a video of Renato Laranja choking out Eddie.
Yeah.
it's a parody. But when I saw that, I didn't know that it was fake. So I went back to the gym. I said, listen, I looked up this guy, Eddie Bravo. He got choked out by a student in his own gym. I don't know what's going on. So once I found out that was a parody, I looked more into him. And I was always fascinated with the 10th Planet system just because it goes against the normal grain of jiu-jitsu. And that's kind of my personality as well. I don't like to go with the mainstream of things. Now, I trained at a gym out here in Long Island when I moved out here. And at that gym is where I got the call for EBI 17, where I competed in the first combat jiu-jitsu tournament that they ran. When I went to California for that tournament and met all the 10th Planet people, I saw the camaraderie that they had there. It was so there, you could feel the energy when individuals were introducing themselves to each other. And when I came back from LA, my goal was to open up a 10th Planet. And one of the requirements was to train at a 10th Planet school. And luckily, I had been in touch with James Haseman, who's one of the instructors at 10th Planet Long Island. The other head instructor is Steve Caston. He's a black belt directly under Eddie. And they welcomed me right in. So I've been there for a little over 18 months, and my game has gone from mediocre to, I mean, you can see on my Instagram the difference in my competition record. I haven't been submitted this year in competition in 15 matches.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me to see the 10th Planet. We don't have 10th Planet down here where I'm from, Virginia, but we train in a very open environment. Or we did whenever we had the school, obviously. Things gone now. But so we trained all no gi. We never trained gi. I started out in gi for 6 months, earned my blue belt, never touched the gi again. So, like, I stopped getting graded, all that good stuff. So everybody always asks me, like, oh, when are you going to move up? I'm like, I'm a forever blue belt. It doesn't bother me, but it's like one of them things, we always we went to train no gi because my coach at the time was a MMA fighter or was a former pro MMA fighter. So we opened up to a lot of the 10th Planet system. And it's funny you were talking about the lockdown. So the thing that introduced me to a 10th Planet system, like I said, I'm not from a formal 10th Planet school, but we use a lot of techniques, was the match with him and Hoyler.
Oh, man.
So the electric chair from day one, since I watched that video, has been my go-to sweep, and it works every time. No matter how high skill of opponent you have, if you know the electric chair and you hit it right, it works every time. It's like magic.
Absolutely.
So that's always been our go-to from that.
And we've visited a lot of gyms traveling for tournaments, and I can tell you, whether regardless of 10th Planet school or not, and black belts are using the lockdown because it works. And recently, I've been working the lockdown into some leg isolations, which is great because the opponent's legs are spliced, which leaves you open to enter the legs. But lockdown, like you said, that match is an amazing match. Yeah. Anytime I want to be motivated, I watch that match. Eddie hits every single 10th Planet technique that will blow your mind. And at that time, no one knew what those techniques were. And watching that was just amazing.
Yeah, he had electric chair, 4 or 5 times in that match? And all perfect.
He had an electric chair, went back onto his back to adjust the leg, and then came back up with the sweep. Yeah.
So one thing that I've been using for, I don't know, probably a year and a half, 2 years now, is you were talking about leg isolation. So down here, that's pretty much like what I'm known for in this area is leg attacks. So one of the things that I use a lot from the electric chair is going into outside ashi from the electric chair sweep. Whenever you can't get it over, can't get the sweep or whatever, pop the legs out, and it works extremely well.
Yeah.
But what I was getting to is it's funny to see 10th Planet has a style per se, but you can go to the same location, and in that affiliation, you'll see 10 different styles within a style. So, like, you have guys like Thor from 10th Planet Allentown now, who is, he inverts a lot. He does a lot of crazy stuff, and he has a great game. Then you have guys like Zach Edwards, who is, like, right on the legs, right on the legs, or there's so many different things. PJ Barch, totally different game. So it's amazing to me how you can go to, stay in the affiliation and see so many different games inside of one game. That's something I've always found fascinating.
Just from visiting headquarters and meeting Eddie, the one thing I notice is he's open to using whatever works, regardless if it's 10th Planet, Danaher Death Squad, Unity, Vitor Shaolin, whatever. whatever techniques are working, that's what we should be practicing. We
Yeah.
shouldn't be stubborn about using our techniques or their techniques. If it's efficient and it gets the submission, everyone should be using it.
Agreed. So I noticed you had a blue belt that trains with you going down to see going down to Star-Lord's qualifier, right?
Yeah, that's Dylan Garofalo. That's the world's most dangerous blue belt.
Cool. I'm excited about that. About the Zapatero, man. Whenever it comes out, whoever gets the qualifier is going to be in a legit fight against the people that he already has in the tournament, and it's going to be great notoriety for whoever gets in.
So I think right off the bat, I know Calistine, Robert Daigle, Keith Krikorian are in that division.
Yep.
So it's going to be stacked. And interestingly enough, before I promoted a single event, I spoke to Star-Lord about doing qualifiers, and he really gave me help about like how to run the tournaments the right way. And he just does so much for the community. It's great. I love being involved with his tournaments. I love having his students come up and do my tournaments. Like that camaraderie that we can have from here to Florida is great. And it's just going to be, so this weekend is finishers. Next weekend, we're going for the qualifiers. It's just going to be a high energy month.
Yeah, absolutely. He's great, man. He helps me out with everything I do. He's really helped me out tremendously in the last 2 months. Like I said, I've started the tournament. We had it going last year, but I had some complications with the state of Virginia, so that's why we're moving out of state this year.
Right.
He's helped me start my apparel brand, which is already taken off, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, he's been great to me, and like I said, the camaraderie, up and down the East Coast in jiu-jitsu is phenomenal. Especially during all this time, everybody stays pretty close together.
Absolutely. We had some problems up here in New York with grappling events. They're considering it amateur MMA now, so we're under the umbrella of the State Athletic Commission, which basically incurs us like tremendous amount of cost just to get an event going.
Yeah, that's what Virginia tried to do to me. I was running the event last year. We had some high-level names. We had Muhammad Ali, Tim Spriggs, Nick Ronan. We had a bunch of people coming down for it because they're close to me. They train 2 hours away.
Right.
And we ended up having to pay lawyer fees and everything else to look at it because the commission got involved, and pretty much the lawyers told us, hey, you can't do it in the state of Virginia without amateur MMA license. You got to pay so much amount of money. It was going to be like $7,000 for us to even run an event, which you're not going to make money at that point.
Terrible.
Yeah.
We're already not making money. We're lucky if we break even, and now we have costs before we can even open the door that day. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're lucky if you break even, let alone when you're paying $7,000 in fees beforehand.
Yeah.
So I know whenever we run the event August 8th, we're not going to be able to have any spectators in besides coaches. So that's something I've been hitting on a lot lately. Obviously I'm not going to make money on the event, but it's something that I want to get out to the world and to be able to let y'all compete. And I think it's going to be fun. I think a lot of people are going to tune into it because who doesn't want to watch jiu-jitsu when the world's locked down? So I think that's going to be really fun. I think it's going to be a really good event. It's going to be really low-key, kind of like you were saying, I think a couple weeks ago, it's going to be like a low-key Gracie Challenge match almost because nobody's going to be there but us.
Right.
But we are going to live stream it, so I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, I appreciate you setting that up because as much as we can train, we still need to set goals competition-wise to look forward to. So now, once we're done with finishers and the qualifier, it's going to be – we already have our calendar set up for training camp for the Quintet. So I appreciate you setting that up.
Yeah, man, not a problem. What other goals do you have in sight for this year?
So we're going to be traveling to Naga with about 15 of our teammates to do Naga Myrtle Beach. Hopefully it doesn't get canceled.
Yeah.
And that brings us to September, which we'll be in full ADCC camp mode. So we have somebody from the gym in basically every weight class. So we're going to be having someone for 66, 77, and 88. So we're going to go right into training camp for that. And then the big goal is just, I want to help my instructors as soon as the gyms are back open, get everything back to normal. I'm going to be teaching when the gym's back open. So that's going to be interesting. This will be my first time teaching at an academy and just continue to spread jiu-jitsu. Like right now, due to COVID, I'm home from work, but I'm doing jiu-jitsu full time and I'm sharing content. For anybody watching, I'm super active on social media. If you have a question about anything, please hit me up in the DMs. Love to talk about jiu-jitsu, I'll send you a video, a breakdown, whatever you need. It's all love in the community and jiu-jitsu. And, we're in a niche community, so we have to support each other.
So one thing I love, Chris, I haven't brought it up yet, but one thing I love in seeing your online stuff, because, I've been bigger on social media, or trying to be bigger in my presence in the last month or two, is whenever I look at your stuff, you're always training with your son. So did he start training before you, or did you start training at the same time? And how does that go?
Hold on. You're talking about this guy?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay. So Patrick and myself started training at the same time. But due to a rib injury, I was out for 7 months. So technically, Patrick has been training longer than me. So we started in the same academy, and he was about between 7 and 8 years old. But within his first year, they wanted to move him up to the adult class just because of his dedication. So we basically been training partners for the last 6 years. And now he's 16 and getting all his hormones. So he's finally beginning to get a little bit of an edge on me. I can still give him that big papa perp power when I have to, but he's getting there.
That's awesome, man. I love that. I love that you could train with your son. A lot of parents don't have that.
Right.
That's a great thing. That really is a great thing that you could share that with him.
If he wasn't as dedicated as he is, I couldn't put this much time into jiu-jitsu, honestly. Because he's so dedicated, it gives me the opportunity to do it because I could bring him with me. It doesn't take any time away from him. And there are days when I'm sore and I'm tired, and I say, Pat, we're going to take off tonight. And I cannot because Patrick will make me go to the gym and take class.
That's awesome, man. I know he hit me up yesterday or the day before. I know I haven't announced it yet, saying that he was trying to get a matchup for the Freedom Grappling Invitational. Yes, so here's the official call out. Who does he want?
Who do you want, Pat?
Anyone.
He says anyone 185, blue belt and under. He can take a purple belt. He's competed in expert division at Good Fight in Naga, so it's an open call. And I forgot to mention on Saturday, the Patty Ice Challenge. So he'll be competing on Saturday against another blue belt. He's not a blue belt, I'm sorry. But he'll be competing against a blue belt, and they're each putting up $500, winner take all, sub only, no time limit. So Freedom Grappling, anybody who wants it, Patrick's available. Just contact Jesse, any rule set, whatever you guys want. The kid needs a match. He's ready to compete. He's hungry. Let's do it.
That's awesome, man. So there's a challenge. Anybody wants it, go ahead and DM me. We'll set it up.
Thank you, Jesse.
Yep. All right, so Chris, I got a couple questions for you, man.
Let's go.
So when you started grappling, what's one thing you wish you knew when you started that you know now?
The importance of passing. I was introduced to Ashigarami very early on as a white belt, and I made the big mistake of constantly sitting back on legs when I couldn't pass the guard. And now my passion is to grind through those frames and pass that guard and give them my shoulder pressure. And I wish I would have done this since white belt.
That's funny because that's pretty much the way I was brought up in it. So, like I said, I trained at a traditional school starting off, and then after that, I went to no-gi school, and I fell in love with leg locks, and that was pretty much all she wrote for me.
Yeah.
So like in the last 2 years, I really had to step off of it and hey, I need to focus elsewhere.
Right. The problem that I encountered was with Dylan, the blue belt we were talking about. So he weighs about 155, and after training so much time with the same training partner, they start to figure a game out, and he just started either getting out of my leg attacks or, more embarrassingly, countering me and hurting my feet. So I said, forget that. I'm going to smash pass. So for the last 4 months, he's been a victim of my smash passing.
Yeah, you definitely got to change it up when you have the same training partners day in and day out. They start to know your game. I have training partners with me that would just run away from my legs every time they get near me. They'll try to pressure heavy. And sometimes it works, sometimes shit, I need to change my game up. So.
Oh, yeah.
So how long have you been grappling for?
Just about 6 years.
6 years, okay. So in 6 years, what do you think your biggest failure is, and what have you learned from that?
my biggest failure is chasing super fights instead of competing regular tournaments. Regular tournaments, you know you're going to be with a similar level or a little bit better, same weight class, and you can see the brackets ahead of time, so you know that you're for sure going to have matches. I got caught up in the idea of fight posters and super fights and big names. I've taken matches with black belts. I've taken matches with pro level guys just because I wanted to be on a card. When I should now I know I set up my year of competitions, whether it be Naga, Good Fight, or EBI. I need to set up so that I get volume of matches and matches that I could bring data back to the gym. So one super fight isn't going to bring me enough data back to the gym to affect my game. I like to go to a Naga and enter 3 divisions, get 12 matches, and then come back and see what works and then work on that till the next tournament. So anyone out there who sees all these grappling tournaments, which are amazing, just remember, put that time in with regular tournaments. You know, Joe Schmo's tournament, it doesn't matter that it's not EBI. Put that mat time in, get a lot of matches, wins, losses, whatever. Bring back that data to your coaches so you can better your game.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an important one, actually, I think. I think a lot of people get turned off by tournaments early on because they're so expensive to run.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, at white and blue belt, you know, you probably don't have sponsors. It's really hard to compete if you're an average Joe. You know, it's hard to pay for all that. But you're right; they are important. One of the most fun times I've ever had competing, actually, I had a super fight. I got offered a super fight at the West Virginia Grappling Games, which not a lot of people hear of because it's, first of all, it's in West Virginia. Grappling's really not that big in West Virginia, right?
Right.
But I was like, yeah, I'll go do this. And I had one super fight that I won in like, I don't know, like 37 seconds. It was really,
right.
it was really quick. The guy set against me, and I was like, well, this never happens. And nobody ever sets against me. So I stepped in and let him put me in ashi. And I have, if you watch enough on me throughout the time, I have a counter technique that I use where I let people put me in ashi and I'll step around it into 50-50. And as soon as I grabbed the heel, he tapped. And I was like, but he was really cool about it. But after that, the guy was like, you drove up here this long. Let's put you in every bracket that we have.
Exactly.
So I competed in the gi. I competed at no gi. And like I said, I don't even train in the gi. So I trained in the gi like 5 times in the last 3 years.
Wow.
So it was really fun to train in the gi, even though I hate the gi.
Right.
But it was just fun to go out there. And I think I had like 8, 9 matches. I had 4 matches against the same guy. He was a 225-pounder open weight. It sucked. He crushed me every bit of it. He won. I think he beat me once. I beat him 3 times, all from leg locks. But he smushed the shit out of me for like 15 minutes every time.
Yep.
But it was really fun, you know, just to go out there and compete. And it was a low tournament. You know, there was probably only 50 people there total. But it's probably one of the most fun times I had competing because it was really laid back and, you know, I could experiment and do what I need to do.
Right. I mean, that's one of the things at 10th Planet, which has been great, especially in the last 6 months. We have plenty of people who are like hungry to compete. So we take these road trips with 10 to 12 people, get a BNB, pack ourselves in there, and we spend the day at the tournament, high energy. We have a blast, tons of matches. We're all coaching each other. We're all roasting each other from the corner. I mean, these are experiences that we can look back on at the end of the year, and we're really making not only fun experiences and memories, but we're upping our game. We're getting exposure, free exposure, traveling. We're meeting people in Pennsylvania. We're going to meet people down in Maryland. I mean, we're just like living a dream and just making it our own. You know, we don't need these big name tournaments right away as most people are striving for. Those calls will come in later when we make our mark on the big tournament scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you're talking about the big tournament scenes. You did the Combat Worlds, right?
Combat Jiu-Jitsu, yes.
Combat Jiu-Jitsu. How was that?
Combat Jiu-Jitsu was an amazing energy rush. My goal going in there was to use my regular jiu-jitsu game and shut down the strike switch. Unfortunately I got JT Money Taylor first round, so he was pretty good at striking.
Yeah.
But 93 guard with a 2-on-1 grip, you could shut down a lot of the striking. And those are the kind of challenges I like. I want to use jiu-jitsu against other things like combat jiu-jitsu or even MMA just to show that it works. It's a challenge.
Yeah. All right. So what advice other than the tournaments, what advice would you give to people first starting out in grappling?
So keep showing up, get beat up. The more time you spend getting beat up, you're gonna get data. The most important thing is to bring back data. So if you spend 10 rounds in bottom side control and you keep turning away and getting your back taken, eventually you're gonna learn through that data that you should turn and face your opponent. The mat time conquers all. It doesn't have to be all hard rolling, but you have to have your body on the mat, whether it's rolling, drilling, and more importantly, when you don't feel good or you're injured, still show up and watch. Mental training, watch videos on YouTube, read threads online about jiu-jitsu. I have books from Saulo Ribeiro all about the gi, but I could take little parts from that and try to apply them to my game. You have to immerse yourself in the sport. It has to be like an art to us. But mat time conquers all. Never miss mat time because you feel bad or because you're injured. Get there and watch your instructor and mentally train. But you want to collect data. The only way to collect that data is to put a lot of mat time on. Just keep showing up. Everyone in the beginning is going to be frustrated, especially when you're first starting out. But little by little, you make these little plateaus or you make these little jumps like, okay, close guard. I can break the guy's posture. Now I can breathe a little while I have that head tie and that overhook. This works for me. Then you can work on that for the next 3 weeks. Then you can work on hipping out for a little bit. Then you can work on getting to the back. Next thing you know, you're a year in and the 250-pound brown belt is giving your shoulder pressure and you're cool as a cucumber because you put that time in and you're comfortable there. Just keep showing up, keep putting in the mat time. That's the only way to get better.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. One of the big things I preach, and I struggle with it as much as I preach it, is grappling in any combat situation. So when I started grappling, it wasn't for grappling's sake. It was because I was trying to get into MMA. And then I fell in love with grappling.
Oh, yeah.
But one of the things I learned through that is the fight game or the grappling game, same thing in that will fuck you up mentally if you're not prepared for it. Because it's like a roller coaster. It goes up and down, up and down. You'll feel great for 6 months, and then you'll have 2 months where you just feel like shit. You're like, I can't do anything. I can't get anything. I can't pass. I can't get any submissions. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know why I'm doing this. And that's what, I think that's why a lot of blue belts quit, because they hit that and they're like, well, I don't need this anymore. I'm done.
Right. They have no reason to keep going through the stress when they reach that accomplishment. And that's so sad. One of the most satisfying things to watch is somebody come in fresh and then progress. And when they put that time in and achieve whatever it may be, blue belt, doing a tournament, showing up for 6 months straight. And then when they drop off, it feels like such a waste of time to me. I wish I could, show them what they're missing, because after blue belt, it gets so much better. You get harder rolls from people. You get more challenging instruction from your coaches. Like, blue belt is a small step to like a brand new world of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, just a roller coaster, I think, really fucks with people mentally. I know I get that a lot when people's like, oh, man, I'm terrible this week. I'm terrible. I'm like, we're all training at the same rate. Some people's going to progress faster than some others. This is the name of the game.
Right. And like you said, sometimes you have a bad week because you're with the same training partners and they figure your game out.
Right.
And then you go visit another school and you're like, wow, all this shit that I got shut down with at my gym worked here. It's just that your training partners have your game figured out. But then you take that game somewhere else. When you take that game to a tournament, that's like the real that's when the light really clicks. When people say train hard and fight easy. If you put in all that hard training and rolling at the gym, when you go to the tournament, it should feel like your techniques are working a lot easier because your opponent usually doesn't know your patterns.
Yeah, absolutely. Where the people you train with every day know exactly what you're going to do. Oh, it's looking like it's inverted. It's happening again. Yeah.
So annoying.
Yeah, it really is. But it helps you sharpen too, because it makes you transition from your usual game.
Absolutely, it makes you have to innovate just to trick your own training partners.
Yeah, So let's go. Who is the top 3 people who influenced you and influenced your game?
My 3 coaches, Steve Caston, James Haseman, Daniel Lee. I have the pleasure of 2 out of 3 of my coaches are in the same weight division as me. So Steve and Dan are both 185ers. So we get to train. I know that whatever I'm doing, whatever's working or not working, isn't because of weight. So they can give me feedback based on what they know at their own body type. And then James, who's like a 155er, he's just a straight animal. Those are my high pace intensity rounds when we go back and forth like animals. So those 3 have taken me in at 10th Planet and just taken me every step of the way. Drill on these days, train hard on this day, go easy on this day, rep like this, diet. I mean, everything across the board that I could need, the coaches are giving it to me. They're on it certified, so they can give me body mechanics, kettlebell workouts, body weight workouts. I had some sciatica issues that Steve had a history with. He fixed that for me. I'm in a place right now that I don't need to leave. I don't need to leave the planet. I have everything I need there. It's amazing. It's just a great environment. Everyone there is so inviting. We all love jiu-jitsu. There's zero drama. Everyone wants to be there. Everyone is eager to get to the mats every night. So my 3 coaches, who are also part of the Quintet team, Steve Caston, James Haseman, Daniel Lee, and then just to mention Dylan, who's going to be the other member of the Quintet team. I mean, that's all I need right now.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's always interesting, your coaches, I think you could always pick apart. You watch yourself on video. I know I watch myself on video a lot and pick my game apart. And you could always see parts of either coaches or former coaches in your game.
Yes.
Depending on what you're doing. It's always interesting to see, like, oh, I know where I picked that up from. I learned that from him. He always does this.
Yes.
But you don't pay attention to it until you actually watch it.
Right. Or you do it in a match and then you feel it from your coach.
Yeah. That's true. So I know you're big on Instagram. Where else can people connect with you at?
Well, basically Instagram and Facebook, I have them linked, but I'm more active on Instagram. It's easier to get in touch with me on DM. It's Chris Shahgholi 10P, ChrisShahgholi 10P, and give me a follow. I always follow back. Like I said, I put plenty of content up. I have a ton of instructionals up there on IGTV. I put up 60-second clips on little techniques to work. I'm running a leg lock camp right now. So any questions with leg locks? I'm running a special on back take finishes, which I also offer virtually. So we could do it through a video chat. But give me a follow and let's get in touch, because anyone who's involved in jiu-jitsu is good in my book. So if you have a rash guard or a gi on, you're going to get a follow back.
Cool deal. So right now you're sponsored by Rubber Bones, right?
Rubber Bones is my rash guard sponsor, and Transcendental Labs is my supplement sponsor. Correct.
Cool. So Rubber Bones rash, I just started picking them up a little while ago. The owner that trains at 10th Planet Long Island, I'm taking it?
Correct. That's Maria. She trains with us.
Cool. Yeah, I noticed they're really slick designs. I really like them.
I saw 2 designs coming out that I can't talk about, but oh man, she's coming out with some great stuff. The rash guards were delayed through COVID, so everyone got our stuff last week. So we've all been wearing it like every day. I'll be wearing her stuff at finishers, and most likely at Quintet, we're probably all going to be in matching Rubber Bones gear. But she's an artist, so she puts out content as well. Just she sells, prints, T-shirts, stickers, everything you could think of. But oh, funny you mention it. There we go. So these are sponsored rash guard with our name on the back. But yeah, she just posted a picture up with me wearing the rash guard. So if you go to my last post, you can follow her as well.
Cool. Yeah, they're really slick rash guards. I know when I started my company and started looking into it, there's certain people that I want to mimic. Not mimic. I don't want to say that. But certain styles that I like, and
Right.
I thought that was an interesting style on it. It's very 10th Planet-esque too. How she
Yeah,
does it.
definitely.
They're really cool. All right. Favorite submission.
Favorite submission. The Persian single.
All right. Favorite match you ever had and why?
Favorite match. I had a match in Pennsylvania, and the opponent, in my mind, I had rolled with him before, and in my mind, he was levels above me. And when he got called out that we were in the first match, I was just ready to lose, and it was like a 7-8 minute match, back and forth, like high pace, and I finally ended up winning. And I told my friend, when you go into a match with someone who's not as good as you, the win is almost expected. But when you go into a match with someone who's a lot better than you, when you're expecting to lose, and you can come out not even necessarily winning the match, but let's just say surviving the match and not getting tapped. To me, I take a lot more from that than a win over someone who's not as good as me. So that match was a huge challenge to get through, and I ended up winning, and that just set the tone for the day for all the matches after that.
That's really cool. Have you ever done tournaments that did no time limit? Not super fights, but tournaments that did no time limit.
Well, Good Fight does no time limit, but after 10 minutes they start you in like a mount or a triangle position. But yeah, that's my preference, like either no points or no time limit. But the longest match I've had has only been like near 12 minutes.
Oh, you're lucky.
Yeah.
So the first time I ever competed, the first time I ever stepped on any competition was at U.S. Grappling down in Virginia. I believe it was in Richmond. It might have been at Virginia Beach. I can't exactly remember. But it was a sub-only, no time limit.
Oof.
And it was going good. I won my division. I think I had like 2 guillotines and a Kimura. And then I went into the absolute. And I was like, I didn't know what to expect. And this guy came out with like ungodly long hair and like a fucking t-shirt on. And I can't stand grappling somebody in a t-shirt anyway. Your foot gets hung up in it. It's miserable, right?
It should be illegal, because when they get sweaty, it's like getting waterboarded.
Oh, it was so bad. So he was probably 215, 225 at the time. And I was grappling at 155.
Oh my God.
He got on top of me and just like smothered me with sweat, and his hair was in my mouth. It was disgusting. And the match ended up lasting 46 minutes.
Jesus.
Oh, it was terrible. It sucked. I remember I heard the ref say, all right, 20 minutes in, and I'm like,
what?
Just kill me now. I'm like, somebody has to tab. Somebody just tab out of exhaustion. This is ridiculous. But of course, I was too proud to give it up. And then I think he ended up getting a Kimura on me at like 46 minutes in. But it was it was the longest match ever. I don't want to ever have that again.
What's the recovery like after that? How were you in bed for the entire day?
Yeah, I felt terrible the next day. I think it was on
even
Saturday, so I had Sunday off, and I think I like chilled out all day Sunday.
That sounds like torture.
Yeah, it was definitely the worst recovery I've had, and I've had some pretty bad ones. So I'm taking super fights. You were talking about super fights earlier. Taking super fights. I'm in Virginia. We don't really have any super fights here, other than my promotion, which is just now starting. So we're going to see more of that closer to us. But as far as everything else goes, I have to travel everywhere. So
right.
I have wife and kids here, so I don't want to be gone from them too long. So I usually travel up there and I travel right back. So my recovery always is shit.
Yeah, I can relate to that for sure.
Like I went to an MMA fight in Parkersburg, West Virginia, up near Ohio. It was like an 8.5-hour drive. I fought that night, drove back home, and was home by the morning. I felt like shit the whole day. I was no good the rest of the day.
Dedication.
I think it was December of 19. Yeah, I think it was this December. It might have been earlier. I went to the IGC up in Connecticut.
Wow.
The Ironman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I went to Ironman. I competed against a guy from Marcello's. He was really energetic, and I had a terrible weight cut. I remember 5 minutes before I had to be at the venue to weigh in on Friday night, I was like trying to cut weight in the bathroom of the shower, like because I usually cut weight in the bathtub. Hot water and Epsom salt, and I cut my weight.
Right.
Because unfortunately, I've been like steadily fucking gaining weight. I used to be 155 now. Then I was like 185. Now I'm like 200 or some shit because it's quarantine. It's terrible. So I was trying to cut weight in the bathroom, but anytime you turn the light on in the hotel, the exhaust fan cuts on. So it was like sweating steam out, so I couldn't sweat. So I ended up having to like put trash bags on. I went down to the hotel gym, and I got on the bike because I couldn't even run. I was so weak, and I got on the bike, and I did like 10 minutes on the bike, and I couldn't even break a sweat. I was like, well, this sucks because I was like a pound overweight. But eventually I started sweating, and I made it to the weigh-ins, and I weighed in. But my recovery has always been shit. I've never been good at recovery. If anybody has any recovery points, please DM me because I'm terrible at my recovery. My recovery is shit. It always has been. Do you cut a lot of weight whenever you compete, or you compete pretty much on weight?
I prefer to compete on weight unless there's money involved. Like I had coaches tell me in the past, there's no reason to cut unless you're getting paid. But I did do Midwest finishers at 170, and that cut was terrible. Like you said, you get to a certain point that you don't have energy to run anymore. So I would just be laying in the sauna suit in my room, just like trying to sweat. Like you don't have the energy to do it. But yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. So I've just been trying to dial in my diet and stay in the mid range. So I'm at 175. I can do 170 or I can do 185 at this point. But yeah, cutting is terrible, especially if you have to travel. It's just the stress of traveling. You don't have access to good foods when you're traveling, and it's just a nightmare.
Yeah, I'm totally against cutting weight in general. But unfortunately, you have to do it unless it's sanctioned somewhere. So I love what high school wrestling teams did down here in Virginia. I don't know if it's the same way up in New York, but high school wrestling teams in the state of Virginia did. You have to do a water test at the beginning of the year, and that water test will say, how much hydration is in your body, whatever. And you can only cut, I think, 3% of that water weight or 3% of your total water weight for a match. So if you weighed at 135 or whatever, you could probably only cut down to like 132. Where, I'm cutting 15, 20 pounds in a week for a jiu-jitsu match, which is fucking ridiculous. I shouldn't be. I should be in better, have a better diet, but that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I like to keep the cut under 10 pounds because with a hard training session, I can cut around 5 to 6. So mostly what I'll do is I'll come in for training with a sauna suit on, and I'll just flow roll instead of regular rolling, and I can cut about 10 pounds. But I that has to be for a day before weigh-in. I don't know how people weigh in same day and then compete. To me, that I have no energy.
Yeah, I know watching people wrestle. My little brother was a pretty good high school wrestler. He did it all the time, and competed the same day. I'm like, dude, I don't know how you're doing. He used to walk around, no lie, in the wintertime, during wrestling season. He wouldn't eat. The only thing he would eat was Jolly Ranchers. He wouldn't eat real food. Jolly Ranchers,
spit it out, yeah.
And spit it out. I'm like, that's not good for you. He used to walk around like pale as a ghost. I'm like, you can't do this forever, man. It's not. It's no way to be. So I don't think there needs to be some kind of rule, against kind of like one championship. One championship is a really good rule on weight cutting, and I wish that was like nationwide for everything, for UFC, for grappling, everything. I think it would be safer for everybody.
Yeah, because in the long term, it has to be detrimental on the organs, especially high schoolers. Who wants them doing that kind of stuff? It's supposed to be fun, the sports.
Yeah, wrestling is anything but. Unless you're competing, that's the fun part. It's kind of like us, grappling's the fun part, but sometimes the hell you go through is not the fun part. Getting into it.
Absolutely.
As far as cutting weight and things like that. As far as like training, competing, I love every bit of jiu-jitsu, but cutting weight can absolutely go off somewhere. I hate cutting weight. I do. I'm a total asshole the whole week up to a fight when I'm cut weight.
Oh yes, so irritable. And people come around eating cookies and soda.
Yeah, they're like, what's wrong with you? I was like, I want ice cream and beer. I can't do this anymore. So, how far is Maryland from y'all when y'all come down for the event?
I looked it up on Google Maps. It's only going to be 4 hours.
Oh, that's not bad. So it's actually, I think, 3 hours from me.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're kind of meeting in the middle anyway. That'd be cool then.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, they were lucky enough to let us in the venue and under pretty fair rules. So I'm really happy about that because you know finding the venue this close and this time was going to be really really hard.
Yeah.
So I know they did say something the other day about maybe having to wear masks when we're not competing, uh, which is what it is. If they're going to let us have the place to compete in, I don't have a problem with it.
Right. I
I don't
mean,
really want to wear a mask all the time, and I usually don't. But I mean, if that's the stipulation to provide us a gym to compete in, kind of take what we can get and do what we got to do.
yeah, if that's what it takes to make it happen, we'll do it.
Yeah. So we'll see how that changes. We'll see if it changes on the spectator part. I hope it does, but it doesn't look like it right now because it looks like everything's going to shut back down.
Yeah, that's what I've been seeing. It's sad. Hopefully, no other tournaments get canceled either.
Yeah. Hopefully, I keep getting emails about like the good fight and everything, putting on more tournaments, and I'm like, how do y'all have these already posted? Kind of like ADCC going in New Jersey, but everything else is shut in New Jersey. I'm like, how is
Yeah.
that going to work out that far in advance? Hopefully, it does.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if ADC has to happen, that's not an option. Trials.
Yeah. It's going to be huge this year, too. I think the U.S. trials for this year and the last one is probably your toughest route to get into ADCC.
Oh,
In
yeah.
the world.
There's no easy matches. It's unbelievable in every division. When you look up the brackets or if you go on Flow and watch the matches, you can't find a bad match. Every single match is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just going to get more stacked, I think, as years go on because I think more people are finally getting into jiu-jitsu. And actually, I say a lot of it has to do with the antics behind some people, right? So, like we talk about, like Gordon Ryan, right? Everybody talks about Gordon Ryan, and some people love him, some people hate him. But the one thing you got to realize is his antics have brought more mainstream attention to it.
Right.
So whether you love him or hate him, you can't blame the man. He's doing what he has to do, and he's getting what he needs to get out of it. I think it's all a character he plays online for that. I don't think that's who he really is.
Exactly.
Because it seems like he's a really good dude. He gives away a lot of stuff. He does things like that. And I think he just plays the character online, and does what he has to do, which I find phenomenal because, like I said, I think it's gave a lot of presence to jiu-jitsu where we didn't have before.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just the amount of followers he has, I can't imagine that every single one of them are a practitioner, but they're getting exposed to jiu-jitsu, and that's what we need.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And he was probably one of the first people to, start getting paid big time for what he does. So,
Big time.
yeah, I love that about him. People like, him. I've looked to, talking about Josh Leduc, Star-Lord,
Right.
Johnny Buck, people like that have really taken the reins of this thing and like, hey, this is what we need to do. This is how you monetize this to make it more mainstream. And things like that have really been inspiring to me. I never got into jiu-jitsu with a goal of being a black belt world competitor or champion or whatever. Like that'd be fucking great if I did. But it never got to my goal, right? My goal was always to teach and to help other people. So I think that's going to be the big thing in my tournaments coming up and running these series. We are going to announce probably tomorrow that half of every sponsorship that we get towards the Freedom Grappling Invitational will go to a charity. I'm not going to announce what the charity is going to be. As of yet, we'll announce that hopefully tomorrow. But half of everything will go to an invitational. Half of everything from the invitational will go to a charity. So I think that's something I'm going to really push towards for a lot of events too.
And that will hopefully entice the sponsors to get involved.
Yeah, hopefully that's what the goal is, and to help people out too. So we'll see how it works out for us.
That's awesome.
All right, Chris, I'm about to let you go here. It's been great talking to you, man. Is there anything I want to add for people?
No, just listen. Check out the invitational. Check out the Quintet. It's going to be live streamed, and I promise to put on a show, win or lose. It's not going to be any boring matches. And Jesse, thank you for having me, and thank you for putting this all together.
Thank you, brother. I will see you then. I'll talk to you later.
Us.
All right, guys. So that was Chris Shahgholi talking ahead of the Freedom Grappling Invitational. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to DM me. If you want to see more of Chris, get at him on Instagram or Facebook. Thanks, guys.